What is good? The Niners beating the Eagles. That's what's good, baby. Oh, Super Bowl. That was the Super Bowl. I'm good now. I don't care what else happens. How you doing, Chev?
Hey man, no, bro, we're not doing that. We're not. No, you're not coming on Al Gore. You're not coming on Al Gore's internet and just starting to show off with some Niners beat the Eagles. You were conceding the season before the game got played, and I knew what you were doing. You tried to put the double reverse whammy on, and it fucking worked.
Sometimes
I don't appreciate that one bit. I'll tell you right now.
Man, I live in a house full of Eagles fans. I'm from the Eagles area. Now I live in Charleston, South Carolina, obviously, but it was a glorious W for the San Francisco 49ers to go in there all beat up and, just be their daddy,
Like I said, it's coaching masterpiece versus coaching malpractice.
That's true. That's very accurate. It's very accurate. So today we're gonna talk a little dynasty rankings, and we're gonna be all over the place here on the live this evening, this morning, this afternoon, whenever you're listening to this again. Chev, how you doing, man?
I'm ready to get into it. I started the day off. Ooh, well. Fresh crack.
It's a Waterloo.
Oh, it's a Waterloo. Okay.
I was out of beer. I don't want to be drinking hard liquor on a Wednesday.
Hey, that's a slippery slope.
That is.
I remember when we were in high school, one of my buddies was like, hey, you got to be careful with that champagne at weddings now. He said, 2 glasses and you're good. 3 glasses, the next thing you know, you're grinding up on a man. And I'm like, brother, what?
That seems like a wild experience.
Are you like, is he trying to tell us?
Yeah.
Is he trying to tell us something?
He said, you drink 3 glasses of champagne, you're going to see me waiting for you in the parking lot.
But yeah, man, I'm good, bro.
Boy, I love some champagne. It just fucks my guts up now,
bro. Oh yeah, you're gonna get the bubble guts.
I'm getting acid reflex immediately.
Yeah, you're gonna. It's aggressive. It's aggressive. Some of the wildest stories I have are tied to me drinking way too much champagne.
Hey, once it starts going down, man, it is. Just bring me a couple bottles and we'll get it going.
Yeah. How did we get here? I
don't know. This is what happens. So anyhow, here we are. Yep. What's up? We got Scribbles 643 in the house. We got, I watched the draft with you guys the other day. The commentary of the picks was so good. All right. Well, hey, we'll be doing another live draft next week. We'll be live most Wednesdays at 8:30. We'll switch it up on the Wednesdays of what we do. Sometimes we'll do rookie stuff. Sometimes we'll do drafts. Sometimes we'll talk rankings and everything. So just kind of a medium to interact with you guys and talk about player values, right? That's what we're doing. So we opened up talking Niners, Eagles, and having a good time about it. And I honestly, since we're doing some dynasty rankings here, let's talk about Jalen Hurts, because I feel like over the last couple of days, he's really been taking some heat. With a lot of people questioning how good he was and if he's this guy or that guy or who he is, and if the Eagles want him around or not. Now, the Eagles are an organization that will make moves and aren't scared to pull ripcords if they don't see things going the way they might want them to go. But, while I don't think Hurts is an elite quarterback, right, thrower of the football, let's say it that way, I think it's crazy to be saying that we might need to reevaluate who Hurts is and what we can do. He took you to 2 Super Bowls and you won one,
right?
Like, I got it. You have a good team. Like, I understand that. Like, it's a really good team. You guys are good you've built a very good team in the trenches and whatnot. But dude, you had a coordinator that's a head coach now who can coach offense. He went to the Super Bowl. He would have been the MVP if they won that one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one, he was the MVP, and this coach is a head coach somewhere else. The other couple, and I get he's had a lot of coordinators. The other two guys weren't there. I don't even know where I forget what his name is. The in between Steichen and I don't know where he is currently. Yeah. And there's no reason that their OC should have been calling plays currently and how he kept his job the whole season, right? And I understand that some of that comes with what Jalen Hurts is and what he wants. At this point, he has to have enough stock built up to say, hey, this is what I want to do and this is how I want to do it for the most part. Now, somehow, some way, when Kellen Moore was in there, the run game was working and this was working, and they were able to. At the end of the day, you still won a lot of games despite all that, and I don't even think the Eagles were as good as the Eagles have been. Now, there's a lot of factors that go into that, but I think it's a bit crazy to be this down on where at least we are right now, and it's probably just because it's fresh with Jalen Hurts. So I don't know where you stand with that, and there's a lot of different angles to take on that, but I think it's crazy that when he's got a good coordinator, they go to the Super Bowl and he's an MVP caliber player. What are your thoughts here? Maybe I'm completely out of line, because what do you think?
So, okay, let's start with the Super Bowls. You can say whatever you want. He's gotten to the Super Bowl twice and he played his ass off both times. Mm-hmm. The first time he set the record for single game rushing yards by a quarterback. You know, he did have the one fumble that they returned for a touchdown, ended up being the difference in the game. This next time, they finished the job, and he was tremendous through the air. The problem is when it's bad or it's mediocre, he's not going to overcome that. Like Shane Steichen was in his bag. You know, tush push was new. They're one of the most effective run games. You know, the next year, Brian Johnson, not as effective. The offensive line takes a step back, and, you know, it's a disaster. And next year, Jalen Hurts, back on it. They signed Saquon, dominant run game. Mekhi Becton plays meaningful, good football for the first time in his career. That offensive line is absolutely dominant. Mm-hmm. Saquon has one of the greatest postseasons of all time, and they win a Super Bowl. So I think that he's an above average NFL quarterback. We talk about tractors versus trailers. So he is not a tractor. He is not the guy that is the catalyst for the offense. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not going to, you know, he's not Lamar. Like, you need to level set these expectations. And I think people got it twisted of, hey, this guy's incredible for fantasy because of all the rushing points he scores, as opposed to like what he actually does. I mean, look at this. 8, 8, 2, 3, 9. So he's bona fide a top 10 quarterback from a fantasy perspective. Mm-hmm. And it's almost like nobody cares because, like, oh, well, in real life, he doesn't throw for that many yards, so we can't really like him. That's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. Mm-hmm. Like, if we're talking real football, no, he is not. He is not an elite quarterback. He's a gamer. He's that, like, he makes the plays.
He's a winner.
Yes, he's a winner. He makes the plays that you need to make in a timely fashion. He's not always going to. He's not making the big time throw all the time. Like, he's great against man coverage. And I said this on Patreon last night. He just struggles throwing with anticipation over the middle of the field. Mm-hmm. That's just what he is. Yeah. Like, if it's man, he's going to shred you, which is honestly, man's harder to beat in the NFL than zone is for a lot of guys, but his is flipped. So everybody has a fatal flaw, and that's his right now. So we'll see how he adjusts, how defenses adjust. The biggest thing for me, is you have to separate what's going on from a fantasy perspective and what's going on from an actual football perspective. And plus, Philly fans are absolutely fucking miserable, to be like, in general. So they lost. Yeah. Now they're crying about how it's awful. And like, bro, y'all forgot about Kevin Kolb? Y'all forgot how dark it got after Donovan McNabb for a while? Like, the Mike Vick years, sure. Like, it got real dark when y'all were rolling out, you know, the second year of the Chip Kelly system. Like, it got real ugly. So if you want to move on from this guy, then sure, do it. But you better have a backup plan. And Tanner McKee and Kyle McCord are not it.
Yeah, so, and some of this comes from, you know, that Tanner McKee has got some buzz over there in Philly, and they like him, and we just saw him play a little in that Week 18 game, and it was kind of up and down. And they like him, and it's like, man, you guys are going to throw away this quarterback who's seen that can take you to the pinnacle, and in that game be a reason why you've winning or have a chance to win. And I don't really understand what else you want. There's only a handful. There's Allen's and Mahomes's, and there's a handful of those guys that are insane. But everybody else has to make do with not having that. And then the Eagles and they have a guy who can perform to those levels. He's just not quite the threat those guys are week in, week out from a quarterback perspective of like, yes. Hey, I'm running this crazy offense, making these crazy throws. He could throw the ball just fine. He can run around. Like, I don't know. To me, it's insane where this is dropped off. We're seeing startup drafts right now. He's going in the second round. Jason, bring those trades back up on the that you were just on there. That he's at 2-3 there. And then we just did one where we're doing one right now where he's like, we went 2-11 or super late. But I mean, we're talking about CJ Stroud. I saw I would trade Hurts for Mahomes for sure. But some of those up there, I saw CJ Stroud in one of those. Like if I can conjure up a trade with Stroud, like I don't mind trading for Jaden Daniels there. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. But there were, a couple up there that as you were going through, like there's Shuck and 104 to 107. I think we talked about that at some point, and that's one QB. But yeah, Devonta Smith and CJ Stroud for Hurts. Like I'd probably just rather have Hurts in that situation, right? I mean, you can tear down, and I get it, and I understand that to an extent. But I mean, Hurts is just a insane fantasy quarterback. Like he wins you matchups.
Yeah.
And look, there are some signals crossed here from when you go from talking about fantasy to real life, and in real life, maybe they feel limited by what they can do, but I just look around and say, you were limited by the situation that you put him in. I don't think he might limit what the offense looks like for you. You can't do some of the things that a Mahomes or a Burrow is probably a better example necessarily do, but he's a proven winner. He's a commodity. Like there's going to be teams out the door lining up to take Jalen Hurts off your hands because there's not 16 quarterbacks that are better than him, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about just if we just go to the NFL perspective, not fantasy, right?
Yeah, it's real dumb. It's really dumb and goldfish brain activity to even remotely suggest that he's not a franchise. He's not their franchise quarterback. Like I don't agree with that in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, like you can do this song and dance if you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes you've watched for a year waiting in the wings behind an Alex Smith. You can do this if you have a Drew Brees and then you draft Phillip Rivers. Mm-hmm. You can't do this when Tanner McKee is your backup option.
Right. And the draft doesn't have a whole lot of options in it. And the free, you can go trade for, who essentially. So I don't know. It just seems like a whole lot of nothing at the moment, but the fantasy value does seem driven down, at least what we're seeing right now in startups. And some of those trades I'm fine with that were on the screen there. Like, if you want to upgrade to Lamar or trade for Jaden Daniels, like I have no qualms with that, but I thought that was a good place to lead off. Go ahead, Chef. What do you got?
I think here's the deal. I genuinely believe, Jason, can you pull the game log back up for Jalen Hurts real quick? While he's doing that, I'll make the point. He let us down. He let us down in the fantasy playoffs, and that plays a bigger role in people's minds than it should. Like, where were we? Yeah, week 17. He absolutely killed you against Buffalo, and that plays the biggest part in people's minds. I feel like.
Yeah, like you're only could have been trying to get in 14, and he puts up 4.4. So there could be some sting there.
Yeah. So I mean, either to get you, if you were winning in to get in the fantasy playoffs, or you made it to the championship, on the back of solid play, and then you were like, oh, this Buffalo matchup should be good. They're one of the worst rushing defenses, and Philly's going to be run heavy, and he goes out and lays a stinker. Now in your mind, you're like, okay, well, this guy stinks. And it's just your own personal hurt. Thank you, Jason. But yeah, that's my biggest thing is you've got to part of doing this, and like I started making content to become a better player and really inform like my takes and how I feel about people. So like I just think you've got to be a little less emotional. Like, yes, he let you down, but there were points where, I mean, he got you to the championship. Like, that was your quarterback to get you to the championship. So let's be a little less emotional. Let's be a little less reactive. He's probably going to be fine, depending on what they, I don't know if they run it back with AJ Brown. It almost seems like the sentiment is that he's going to be gone.
Right.
But, I mean, they do have a pretty hefty contract. I mean, he's got a pretty hefty extension that he's in the middle of. I'll see how many years he's got left on that whole deal. But I think we got to just be a little bit less reactionary here and pump our brakes. This has been a guy who was top 2, top 3. He's taken a couple like step back because the run game took a step forward. And this year, the bad offensive coordinator, that's objective, by the way. Everybody sees that. That was one of the most uncreative, the lack of creativity in that offense was just readily apparent to everyone.
Right.
So let's just take a step back. We here are going to tell you, hey man, this is the time where you can really strike and get a quality asset, a bona fide high-end QB1 for QB back-end QB1 prices. So
yeah, potentially there. I like that a lot. And like I said, if you're just joining us, this spurred because we've seen Jalen Hurts kind of moving into the second round, late second round. Somebody in the comments just said he went 3-1 in a startup that they saw. So I'm not scared of Jalen Hurts from a fantasy perspective at all. And I'll take that value dip here. So we'll talk some more player values here in a second. We got Patrick asking a question. He said, hey, fellas, got the 101, the 104, the 106, the 108, the 112 this year. Strong players I have are Caleb Williams, Neighbors, hopefully Benson. Should I draft all these picks, trade up using the late first? I mean, no. Essentially, I wouldn't. That wouldn't. My plan going in would not be to make all of those picks. Now, I wouldn't come in with the idea that I don't have to make all of those picks, but I would be, trying to figure out how I could move some of those to 27. And not just because that the draft class right now is very good, because in general, like I just want to move some of that capital kind of down the line and try to get something for one of those picks. Like, hey, can I move this to next year and get something right now for it? Right. Yeah. And that gives me some capital moving forward, especially if I'm trying to build this thing up over the next 2 years. Moving the back end picks up like a 2-for-1 kind of deal, I don't mind it. We'll kind of see how the tiers kind of pan out right now, but I don't hate anything up to 6 for sure. And it seems like I could get to 8 without hating it. I don't know if it's tight end premium or not. But by the time we're done with this, I'm probably going to really like 12. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I wouldn't, what you have now is the greatest insurance policy in all of fantasy, right? You're in control. And what you do have now, and what you see a lot, you are in control of the board in the first round. So what anybody wants to do, they got to come to you, and you get to dictate the pace, where this goes, like who gets taken and who you want right now, because there's really only a couple other areas where somebody can come in and buy the pick. Right. Yeah. So you're in complete control of dictating this first round. So you've got so many options of kind of how you want to do this. So Chev, what do you think?
That's the point. My sentiment from the jump was, hey, I don't necessarily want to make all those picks. The 1-1, the 1-2, the 1-4, the 1-6, the 1-8, 1-12. What was it? Let me go back to it.
It was
1-1, 1-4,
6, 8, and 12.
1-4, 1-1, 1-4, 6, 8, 12. Okay. So, depending on what happens at 1-2, 1-3, 1-5, and 1-7, like you now have ammunition to move around and be able to go acquire a veteran. Because I mean, these picks are going to be like gold, especially during the draft. So you don't have to make those moves ahead of time. Like you can sit there, watch the board. You have control, as Casey said. play the board. If somebody, if your guy goes, if you got a guy like, if you were dead set on taking Kevin Concepcion at 108 and he goes and you want to trade out of that, you can very well do that because there's going to be somebody else who's all horned up for somebody that you were going to select with that. And during the draft, you could probably try to trade for a veteran and somebody because again, human nature, recency bias, you're in the middle of, you're excited to click the button because nobody's been able to click buttons and get play and do drafts for the last, at that point, like 2.5 months. So then you can go get a real veteran that could help this team. It seems like you've got some high-end pieces, but you also have holes. So you could use this as ammunition to improve your roster without having to rely on the rookies. So I love the spot that you're in right now. I don't think that the time unless you get an offer, a Godfather offer that you can't refuse, I don't feel like now's the time to try to move these picks. Just sit on them. They're appreciating in value as we get more into evaluation season. So yeah, that's a great spot to be in, and you could be set up to contend after, just smashing this draft.
Yeah, I think that's a good point of holding. There's going to be plenty of people who tell you this class stinks or whatever, but there's going to be a point where a whole bunch of different things are bubbling up. Obviously, in draft is typically the best time because regardless of what most people think of the class, like you're going to be in there and it's going to be rookie fever, and you want to be part of the action, right?
Yes.
And so that's usually the best time to do so. Or if you got a very active league and people kind of know the values of where they want to be, then you could take advantage there. So those are all solid points. All right, we got another in here. He made 3 small moves in the last 2 days that equaled me getting Christian Watson, Godwin, and Gainwell for 3.9, 3.12, and Trey Benson. I think these are small improving moves that add depth. Okay, so you got Christian Watson, Godwin, and Gainwell for 3.9, 3.12, and Benson. So obviously, the asset you're giving up there is Benson, the 3.9 and the 3.12. Whilst we like the third, we like trying to make some money in that round. And other people will tell you that you can't. I strongly disagree with that. But Trey Benson, how long do you want to wait? It's like a bond. You're waiting for it to mature, and it's just you're like, damn, I could really use that $20 right, or I could use that $1,000 right now.
Yeah.
Really wish it was 2028, so that thing would be mature.
Right.
God forbid somebody just gave me the $1,000, but so. I don't necessarily love losing Benson there, but if you're in position where you've got, a pretty good roster and Gainwell was great, that's kind of a wild card there. The 3.8, the 3.12 for those guys, I don't mind it at all. Somebody said, I feel like the small victories win in fantasy. They absolutely do. Look, Trey Benson could come out in week 3 and this look like a trade where you're like, damn, really wish I had Trey Benson right now because he just, shot up to, 3rd, 4th round startup value that we've kind of been waiting on to have happen. Just hasn't really played out that way. But from where Trey Benson has been and where he's ended up, I think it's a good move right now. And we've all talked about Watson some. We've talked about, Godwin's a little older and Gainwell's a little bit of a wild card. So Chev, what are your thoughts here?
I absolutely love this. Like it's not a micro transaction because those are all very viable players. If they're healthy, Christian Watson is most likely outside of a ridiculous outlier. Christian Watson is going to be more valuable to your team than the 3.09, the 3.12. And sure, you could end up being wrong on Trey Benson. Like we could hold, as Casey alluded to. It could be, it could mature as a bond and then end up being something way better, way better than what you get. Like, I doubt that he's better at football than Gainwell at this point. I highly doubt that.
Yeah, that bond took a while to mature too.
Yeah, and that took a while for it to come. I mean, you always saw the flashes. I'm a Memphis guy, so I always thought Kenneth Gainwell was really good, but I mean, again, it takes opportunity. And now Trey Benson enters into a situation where no coach, don't really know what's going on. If it's Arthur Smith, please get out Hey, get away, run away, right
away.
Hey,
if it's Arthur Smith, for the running back, it might not be the worst. You know, we just saw Warren have his best season. If he's the guy he chooses, we just saw two guys have one.
Yeah. That's the thing is you got to play the if game,
right?
Like Justin Herbert, if man, like
there's no way he's going to be the coach. But
I'm just saying, bro. Like he's a terrorist.
Arthur Smith must tell people you're not going to get your FedEx package or UPS package if you don't. Whichever one his dad owns or is a big
FedEx.
Yeah,
but like,
Doug, why are you coaching anyway? What are you doing out here?
Yeah, bro. I really feel like we would be in a much safer space if he would just go and be a trust fund baby. It'd be better for all of us.
Yeah,
like no more free. No more Arthur Smith ever. Yeah. So. With that being the case, though, man, I just feel like Christian Watson could be. Trust fund baby. So what?
I said he coaches like a trust fund baby.
Oh yeah, I'm just out here trying stuff.
Yeah, like, if it doesn't work, who cares?
He's out there with nipple clamps on, nipple clamps on. Every time he gets in 13 personnel, he gets a jolt. That's why they're in it so much.
Yeah, we got a couple of frozen deep dishes in the trunk if it doesn't work out.
So, but and the real analysis though. I feel like Chris Godwin and Christian Watson are going to be, if they're on the field, they're going to be more valuable to you than the 309 and the 312. So good get by you. And Kenneth Gainwell is the X factor here, because if he ends up in another scenario where he can catch, not even 73 passes like he caught this year, but if he gives you 60 and then, he's at 4.7, but he gets 200 carries somewhere else, like, this is going to be fantastic for you. So I feel like that's a win right now. That could be, again, I'm pretty biased towards Kenneth Gainwell. I've always thought that the talent didn't really line up with the opportunity that I felt like he should get. So now he enters into a situation where he could give us 2 to 3 years of production if he goes somewhere. There's that if man again. If he goes somewhere where they'll actually, give him the pass catching role, or
maybe carries. Maybe he goes to Arizona with Arthur Smith. Who knows?
Oh, brother. That would make me.
All right.
That'd be softer than soft serve in a sauna if that happened.
I saw a question in here from Dan. He said, I got to start 2 tight end, 12-team league, no premium. How much does this raise the cost of tight ends, similar to playing in a 1-point tight end premium? So he's basically asking, like, if you have to start 2 tight ends, how much does it raise the cost of tight ends?
Fairly significant. Not as much as 1 tight end premium, but probably like between 0.5 and 0.75.
Yeah, I would for sure want a good one.
Yeah,
and then play the Juwan Johnsons of the world for my 2.
Yeah,
right. That's
sneaky
my strategy.
Sneaky guy that you can keep your eyes on.
I just draft a lot of them is what I would do.
You gotta have be very proactive. Be very proactive and don't hey, Greg Dulcich. I'm just throwing it out there. Throwing it out there.
Hey, we're brother. He's out there with that hair, that flow.
I was watching a video from earlier this year, you and I did, and you had the full LGBTQ cut, and it was great.
I'm about to trim it off. I'm about to cut it all off here soon. Well, not all, pretty short, but I still have longish hair. About to get it chopped up. All right. Let's see. Any other questions here? Follow-up question. Thanks guys. Truly last question for me. Since it's Superflex, should I trade back and snag Mendoza or make sure I get Love? You should definitely most likely take Love at the 1-1.
Yes.
Mendoza is not going to be the 101.
Yes.
But he could be floating into that 3-4 spot, I think, here relatively soon. I think there's probably going to be a wide receiver or 2 that stamp, whether it's Lemon or Tyson, that stamp that 2 spot or 3, or the kind of vice versa. I could see Mendoza being 3-4 by the time the cycle's all over.
It's just the same thing that happened with Cam Ward last year.
Yeah. All right. I had a Patreon question here queued up, and it would kind of take us into some conversation that we could have on some rankings of some later round guys here. But this fella who's a Patreon member, he said, Is there a specific type of trade that you focus on this time of year, rather? He's new to Dynasty, uncertain if I should be holding or waiting to see how the off season shakes out. Are there seasonal shifts that can be leveraged? So that's the first part of the question. Then he has some questions about some guys. So is there anything that you're like doing in general right now, Chev, that a trade that you focus on in the early off season right now? Because for me, probably not, because a lot of my leagues are not super active right this minute, and that's just kind of how it works personally for what I've got going on. Did you have any other experience there?
Yeah, the biggest thing, what I text you earlier today, dude.
Yeah,
the forgotten second year players. Those dudes are the most unsexy dudes in fantasy right now. The guys who didn't really pop off that we really liked as rookies, the Jalen Royals of the world. Like I took it a step further and I went and I started sending. Well, shit, I sent you a trade for Jalen Royals earlier today.
Oh yeah, don't
instant decline.
It's the wrong tree, pal.
But those are the guys. I saw him get moved for 2/4 earlier today. Like those are the guys that I'm actively targeting. And at some point, we're gonna do an episode where we talk about the forgotten or fallen soldiers. The guys. Those second year guys are going to be forgotten about. Last year, I was all over Jaylen Coker saying like, hey man, this is the wide receiver 2 in Carolina. This is the wide receiver 2 in Carolina. Before they even draft, I was like, hey, like before they even drafted Tetaroa, and even when they did draft Tetaroa, I was like, he's going to be the wide receiver 2. I was like, he could be the wide receiver 1 if they didn't go wide receiver, but he's going to be the wide receiver. Like he's going to be a premium part of that offense. And I wanted to buy as much as possible of the Carolina offense because it's a cheap offense that could be way better than we thought. So the second year guys at receiver, at running back, Caleb Johnson. I know you won't do it, so I'll fucking do it. I'll do it. Caleb Johnson, Brashard Smith, those guys that we were really, really excited about that now seem to have a stain on them. Trey Harris, those guys that nobody seems to really care about, that now we can get at a discount because they've disappointed based on the capital that they had, that you took them with in your rookie drafts, or potentially in startups. Those are the guys that I really want to try to get ahead of it on, because the situations are changing. Like even now, I feel like any positive offensive coordinator buzz, if Mike McDaniel ends up in Los Angeles, all of a sudden all those prices skyrocket. And there's a bunch of there's an expiring contract in Keenan Allen, that clears a pathway somewhat for Trey Harris. We all assumed that he was going to take Quentin Johnson's spot. Quentin Johnson had his best year of his career. So that's kind of the vein that I'm thinking. I would, if you want to get ahead of it, that's the way to do it without making, potentially foolhardy moves. Like it's a low risk, high yield type of investment. And those are what I want to do now. I don't want to do anything personally that's going to alter the chemistry or the makeup of my team right now, because there's so much that could change between free agency, between the draft and all those things. I feel like I talked a lot just in.
No.
That's my focal point right now.
That was a good take there of, it doesn't need to necessarily just be second year guys, but just veterans that you kind of believe in that are, even if it's older veterans that you believe in and you've got a good team and you're a contender. Doug mentioned it up there. Like, you could, Mike Evans would just be an example from last year. Obviously we know how it worked out now. But I bought Calvin Ridley in some spots that didn't work out, but it didn't cost me anything. Right. But it cost me a late round third or something, right?
Yeah.
In some spots. But, Mike Evans and Calvin Ridley struggles because of we kind of knew what the situation was. It wasn't going to be bad. So that's a bad example. But like Mike Evans, you could think whatever you want to think, but his roster spot, if he's healthy, he's going to play. Right. And so you're not too worried about like what gets shaken up in the coaching changes, to the point of what you were making earlier for the cheap older veterans. And then the other guys like a Coker from last year that you were saying, like you can go fishing with late round picks right now and people will be like, oh yeah, like he hasn't done anything. Like, in the follow-up part of this question, he asked about Coker, he asked about Keaton Mitchell and Isaiah Likely, right? And kind of where those guys are. And I like I'll buy all those guys right now. Right. Likely is a free agent.
Yep.
Coker has done nothing but be solid since coming back from injury, and then in the playoffs he was great, and a couple weeks before that he was very good. He looks like he should be the 2 on this team, and then they have these 2 monsters on the outside. And from what you see from game film of Coker, he's awesome. Same thing with Keaton Mitchell, like was looking good, was injured, got injured on a terrible injury, worked his way back. A couple times even seen him in this past year, he looked really good. Now there's, we're changing regimes, so we don't exactly know what's going to be, but those, like you said, Chev, they're not really costing you anything at this point. Not altering your core of your roster it was also a very good point there. So a lot of good key takeaways from there. And, if you do want to make a bigger move, like somebody said, something about JSN earlier before we had this breakout, like when you go, like, let's say you want to buy somebody like a JSN, that's a little bit bigger of a move, right? Even though he was down a little bit, still there was some cost there, like Roma Dunze. Let's just say you want to go buy Roma Dunze right now or whatever. Like, that's when I would then go tack on that other guy as well, right? I tack on Jalen Royals and like, I'm trying to scoop all of those guys I possibly can. And if I'm making a deal like that, I'm going to tack on those sort of players at the end of this. So,
yeah.
All right. Doug had a question here. He said, JSN or Ladin 1-3 PPR Superflex tight end premium.
That's pretty firmly JSN for me.
I agree.
I don't really understand. I was Lad over JSN to start the season. I can wear that. I can say that honestly. And like JSN is just, he's ascended into the alpha tier. Like I've got to put him in there. I'm not moving CeeDee Lamb out of the alpha tier. Maybe I change that if George Pickens signs a long-term deal there, just because he's going to cannibalize a little bit and it's easier for him to create, but that's not what this is about right now. So I'd go JSN pretty comfortably.
Yeah. I'm with you there. How do we feel about TreVeyon Henderson moving forward? You and I and Jeremiah just did a show that'll be out next week, I believe, on rookies. Ramondre, kind of getting some run here at the end of the season here, looking good with it as well, right? So what do we just was it, we're doing mocks right now. If you're not in the Discord, come join the free Discord, and we throw the mocks out there, building ADP in January. So come join those. But where do you have, like, you're faced on a turn and you've got, you got the Buckies and the TreVeyons and James Cook and Breece Hall, and, do you firmly take TreVeyon over all those guys right now? Even how much does this end of season weigh on you with Ramondre and Stevenson moving forward? Because I think the fantasy guys just want TreVeyon to be a thing really bad. And obviously he had a great stretch and has looked good. It's nothing to do with TreVeyon. It's to do with the guy who calls the plays and what he does stylistically. And the head coach seems to want to have Ramondre involved. And now I think year 2 will get an evolution of TreVeyon, but is it worth end of second, third round startup value right now? Or how are we valuing TreVeyon kind of moving forward?
I love it. I absolutely love it. Ramondre is going to be back next year, guys. I hate to break it to you. He's got a $9 million cap hit, and he's played his way onto a playoff roster, and he's a key contributor. He's going to be back. Now, the next year, 2027, I believe it drops down to like $3 million. So we might be, but here's the thing. They were one of the most inefficient running teams in all of football this year. They were one of the worst in terms of yards before contact. I'm going to pull that up here in a second. And I think that this is what it looked like for Jahmyr Gibbs with David Montgomery. That's the closest thing. Like it's almost a 1-to-1 correlation here. So I think that, I would be buying as much TreVeyon as humanly possible. He's going to be, it's him, it's Saquon Barkley, and like Flipper two shoe Jones or somebody from like the 50s with 50-yard touchdowns as rookies. So he's got the home run hitting ability, he's got the efficiency, and that was in spite of having one of the worst offensive lines, from a run blocking perspective, a run block success rate, yards before contact, all those things. I think they're going to take another step forward. They're 10th in cap space. So I think that's probably where they start to butter their bread. And that's Mike Vrabel's thing, man. Like they build teams that can just beat you up in the trenches. So I don't have any sort of issue with buying TreVeyon right now. I don't have any sort of issue with buying the premium because, like, what questions do you have about his ability? It's the same.
Yeah,
it's kind of the same thing with Bryce Hall, right?
Right.
Like he's in a terrible situation that we can't really say, but we know that the talent is awesome. So it's shrouded in a bunch of bullshit, but that in there is a diamond. So why not go and buy the diamond?
Yeah. Bryce was, a buy for us all off season. It didn't necessarily pan out for you how you wanted it to, but he's going to be a buy again all off season again. This is Chris Olave to me.
Yes.
Right. As far as Bryce goes.
Yeah.
TreVeyon, I think in a league that's already established and already had the rookie draft, I think it's a lot easier to say I'm very comfortable with TreVeyon. I drafted him. I'm good. But in the startup, when you're in that like third round, like Jason was just showing one up there, like, it's early. And sometimes in these mocks, like I don't even really take who I want to take because I want the public to kind of more tell me what's happening rather than me take every player that I want to take. Right. So in this scenario, we've got one going right now that I took Bryce ahead of TreVeyon. Now I have Bryce ranked ahead of TreVeyon just because I think Bryce is a stud, right? And I think Bryce is one of the elite running backs in the league and one of the best pass catchers. I think TreVeyon's right there too, but I think we might be in purgatory here for a minute with weekly usage of TreVeyon potentially. And I think it's really, really close. I think in general, long-term, I think the values and right now the value is certainly on TreVeyon's side. And I don't even think it's close. I think anybody right now would trade you TreVeyon straight up for Bryce, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's the dichotomy of rankings and existing leagues versus startups is like the values are always it always feels a little different. The values are brought to you a little different, right? You're building a team. So a lot of different factors go into there, but you feel comfortable with TreVeyon Henderson moving forward and drafting him, in that last draft. I think it was 3-6, was it? And the one that Jason that was completed that he had pulled up.
Yeah.
So what was it? Yeah, 3-8. So yeah, that you feel good about that. Like, and should you be drafting James Cook in front of him?
Yeah.
I mean, that again, that's like, what it is with James Cook. You know what the role is. It seems like in general, like those two running backs, I could know what I get, where I don't exactly know where TreVeyon's going to be over the next year. And how much do you take that and say, I don't really care, which I'm fine. I am fine with. Like, I don't have any problem with that. It's just early on in these startups, I've had trouble being like, do I want to pull the trigger on TreVeyon in the third? I don't think it's a bad idea. But it's interesting. I think, Bryce is a free agent, so he will not be on the Jets. Somebody said, so.
Yeah, I doubt that they re-up him for what he'll be. Like, why do you franchise? But again, it's the Jets, and they're really stupid. So,
yeah. JT or Scatabo and 203. I'll take JT, especially if I got a good team. Let's see here. Was there another question somewhere? Who is the top tier Dynasty wide receivers right now?
The top tier?
The top tier for me, it's Chase, it's Puka, it's JSN, I think right now for me. And Justin Jefferson is still right there. We just got to figure out what the quarterback is, right?
Yeah.
Rashee Rice would be in there, but we've got some question marks. And then CeeDee Lamb, I think is for me probably right outside of there.
You're moving CeeDee Lamb out of the alpha tier?
I just want to see how it plays out with him and the other, but he probably still should be in there. So that would kind of be my top top guys.
I sent you mine today, and it was tier 1, like the elite of the elite. I had CD, I had Justin Jefferson, JS, and I added. So it's always been the old hat wide receiver ones, JSN, CD, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson. And then this year I had to add Puka and JSN. And I think that's where it's going to
And we should probably put Amon-Ra St. Brown back in there. I mean, I just
yeah, he always kicks off tier 2 for me just because.
Yeah, I mean, he was, and then he was up there, and then I just wanted to make sure, like, I still didn't mind drafting him, but we're moving Ben Johnson, and we see what the effect of that is on the team and the offense. But Amon-Ra was still fucking awesome, so I would put Amon-Ra in there too. And then coming out of there, you got like your Malik Neighbors and your Drake Londons. I know the big pineapple down there is he's got to be climbing the charts. But still in on guys like Garrett Wilson. They'd kind of be like tier 3. Olave's moved up a lot, right? So that's kind of where we're at with that top. Scribble says Lamb's still in the alpha tier. I think that's probably correct. Bryce is going to skyrocket next year on another team. Somebody asked a Kyler question. Let's see here. How are we feeling about Kyler? Like I said, QB3, but just hate his outlook dynasty wise. Kyler going. Where'd Kyler go in this draft here that we did last week? What's that? 8-4. I'll take Kyler Murray at 8-4. Look, I don't know what's going to go on in Arizona. I don't know where he'll be at. This goes back to the earlier conversation with Jalen Hurts, not in the fact of anything to do with him, but like there's just not 32 good quarterbacks right now, like or really ever in this league. Kyler's going to get a chance to go somewhere else and do something. So as long as he's on the field fantasy wise and where you can draft him, like he's going to outperform the fantasy value that you're getting him from where he's going in startups right now and what people would probably trade for him. Like me and Big Co picked up Kyler Murray for a 2nd-round pick in Superflex, right? I'll do that as many times as I can. Just, as long as he's on the field and playing, he's going to put up okay fantasy points, right? With if he gets it together and gets in a good system and chucks it around a little bit, we've seen him put up elite fantasy points, right? I don't know if we'll ever get back to there or not, but even if we don't, from where the pricing is, like I have no problem buying as much Kyler Murray as possible with where the value is currently.
Yeah, I am in the opposite camp of this. I want no parts of Kyler Murray.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't. The idea of this is so much cooler than what it actually is. Like it just. I'm done. If you can do it for what the people in the comments called a taco trade, we were like I actually saw Kyler get moved for a 3rd, in a league, in a super flex league. It's tight end premium best ball. I saw him get moved for a 3rd, and I was like, oh, let me go try this. And then promptly got cussed out.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the value is, but I don't want to buy. I don't, if he goes to the Jets, like maybe it's good, but like, is that the environment that you think that he could succeed in?
No, I don't. I certainly don't want him in New York, but even if he goes there, like, I mean, I think we're okay as far as, points scored. And that's really all at this point, like you can't love Kyler Murray, right? But you can take the discount and put him in my lineup or, as my QB2. Or have him on your roster as your QB3. I think he was around 16 points a game this year, which is, that's fine. I'll take that. And I know there's a better ceiling in there. And, I don't know. Maybe it just stinks to be in Arizona. I have no idea. I think we kind of know who he is and what his character is. It doesn't mean that people can't change and figure things out. But, I'll continue to just buy into Kyler Murray currently. Just because, again, what the purchasing cost is for what he can give me out on the field, I think is more than fair. Like there's 2 3s, there's Jerry Jeudy, I'll Kyler Murray and Scatterbo for Bo Nix. That's a good trade on the Knicks side. What Daniel Jones for Kyler Murray and some picks. Like
Daniel Jones has one leg, and that's probably where I would draw the line.
Yeah, right. But I mean, shit. What if Kyler Murray's a Colt next year? Somebody's gonna need his services, man. Somebody's gonna need his services. So
somebody's gonna need his services. I don't know. I believe he's got a $36 million cap hit with, I think he's got like
still not that expensive, really, at the end of the day for quarterback.
Yeah, dude. Once I saw Atlanta eat $66 million, and then whatever Denver did to make Russ go away, nothing can surprise you anymore, to be honest with you. Yeah. I just don't. I think from a real football perspective, there's a lot of detraction that has to do with, his general demeanor and attitude towards like, hey, I don't feel like running this week. And, like Clayton Adams coming out and saying stuff like that. Like, I think that our hope that he could go back to being, the top 3 quarterback that he was and whatever.
Yeah, we don't need that. We don't need that for the price point. That's not
that's not. Yeah. I mean, but you're holding out hope for something that I don't think our day in the sun is coming. And so
he can put up Sam Darnold points. That's what all I'm saying.
I don't think so, man.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't think so.
He was putting up Sam Darnold points this season.
I don't think we're gonna get I don't think we're gonna get back to that, especially if he goes to somewhere where he doesn't have the franchise investment. Like,
yeah, I mean, if I'm him, I'm probably not going to go to the Jets, right?
Yeah,
but especially because I don't know that I love the staff necessarily, but if he goes there and they give him a couple of year deal because they can't do anything else, like he's probably going to score fantasy points, and he's an 8th round pick right now. You're trading 3rds and 2nds for him, like I think that's easy money for just playing if you want to play your quarterback position a certain way, right? And if you get 2 more years of 16-point a game production out of Kyler Murray for your 2nd or your 3rd, if I want to play the quarterback position that way, which I actually do a lot of the times, I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all.
I hear you. It's just there's certain players that are just, hey, not even if there's a fire.
It's not fun, and his personality stinks, and it's not to say that can't change, but it's not likely at this point. So, but at the end of the day, somebody asked Kyler Murray or Cam Ward, or switching gears, Cam Ward or Bryce Young. We've talked about this a few times, but I think it's Cam Ward for both of us at this point. But I mean, Bama Bryce does it again, goes out there and puts together a nice performance where you're like, he keeps reeling me back in a little bit, right? Bit by bit. Bryce just keeps bringing me back in. And I feel like I want to be out. They exercised the 5th year option in Carolina, right? So that's positive for your Bryce stock. But I think, everything was so bad in Tennessee this year. We'll see who the coach is. A lot of ifs, ands, and buts for the Cam Ward side, but I'll take just the Cam Ward talent bet right now, I think, rather than Bryce.
Cam Ward? The Cam Ward? Cam Ward in two-tone? Nashville Cam Ward? Cam Ward is about to get Mike McDaniel and Robert Saleh calling plays and head coaching? Yeah, bro. Sign me up for that. Sign me up for that all day, 2 times, twice on Sunday. Yes, this is a future superstar right here.
What if if you guys like, why don't maybe I think Mike McDaniel's going to end up being probably a head coach again, just because I don't know about the cycle's kind of weird, although
it is very weird.
But if he was just your head coach with Cam Ward, you'd feel good about that, regardless of where you think the Titans are going.
Yes.
If you don't love him maybe being able to run the team necessarily, even so, like if he's just your head coach, which obviously I'd rather him be the OC for a year or two there, but yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you there. So all right. What do we do with somebody like Javonte Williams kind of moving forward? What do you where do you see that? I know that's not your favorite player, but where
No, Casey, no, don't do that. Do not do that. I told you the genesis of why.
He was one of those fire guys last year for you. So.
Yeah, you're right. But why was that? It was because I bought in and he was ass. And then I bought in again and he was ass. And then all of a sudden he found the football that the Monstars were storing his powers in, and he's awesome again. So if he's in Dallas, he's a buy because he's not going to be appropriately priced. I think. Hold on. Woo. See, I'm fucking allergic to Javonte.
Hit that mute button.
Yeah, I'm allergic to Javonte Williams now. This is your fault. But if he's in Dallas, I think that he's a top 10. I think he's going to give you top 10 to 15 production pretty easily. That Clayton Adams run scheme is like, it's the opposite of the wide zone with Shanahan and all them. Like, it's just gaps and counters and powers and all of these wonderful things that lead to fantasy goodness. And he's a good player. He showed off a lot of what you saw pre ACL injury, ACL, MCL, and everything else that he had. I truly just don't think that he was healthy. It's weird that, you would think that with modern medicine, you think these guys just snap right back. Right. And it just didn't happen for him. So if he's in a good situation, if he's in if, for instance, I don't think it happens, but how crazy would it be for Denver to bring him back as the Mark Ingram role?
I was sitting here thinking, like, where could he go? And then I was like, oh, Denver. And I was like, oh, he was just in Denver. Why would they do that? But I don't think he would want to go back to Denver. And I wonder how much money the Cowboys would be willing to give him and to run it back with him. Like, to say, like, is it, you give him, $6-8 million as he stick around, I don't know, but it certainly will be interesting. But would you rather have Javonte moving forward or Kenneth Walker's in the comments quite a bit here? 3 sticks or Javonte? And I think
3 sticks.
Yeah. And I think, in the middle of the season, it's Javonte. Right now, what we've seen from 3 sticks over the last couple games, and just, being able to actually see him, I felt like Javonte kind of, had a couple of games there where he and the Cowboys offense sputtered out a little bit. And then, that they had some injuries on the O line as well, I believe. And then Kenneth Walker has looked, like a lot of fun, and certainly doesn't seem like he'll be a Seahawk next year. So I think I would rather have Kenneth Walker too. So where does this? Let's keep playing the Kenneth Walker Javonte Williams game. Kenneth Walker or Scatabo?
Scat Pack.
Okay, Scat Pack. Okay, how about Travis Etienne or Kenneth Walker? A lot of free agencies here.
Travis Etienne.
Okay.
That's it pains me to do it, but yeah, I mean, they talk about a guy that got his powers back from the Monstars. Yeah, Travis Etienne's playing some good football. He played some good football this year.
Yeah, there's going to be, obviously, I think
free agent class is crazy
and movement is going to be interesting. But like if Kenneth Walker goes to Dallas, they just keep playing that we're just going to take these offshoots that people don't want to securely give contracts to, and we'll give them like kind of a mid-range going rate for running backs. Like, hey, we'll give you $6-8 million a year if you come here and play for us for a year for Dallas, which seems like they'd be fairly content doing. Like, maybe Rico Dowdle's back over there for, $6, $7, $8 million. But if Kenny Walker goes to Dallas for $6, $7, $8 million, like that's going to be over the moon and through the roof with what, where Kenneth Walker would, what that would do for my hopes for Kenny 3 sticks here.
Dude, if all we need is we just need him to go somewhere where they'll treat him like Seattle treated him in 2024. That's it.
Does Seattle come now that we think we're going to get, is this an ideal time to sell Charbonnet potentially if you can, or this in between time where they don't draft another running back, or I don't know if they'll bring another free agent, but it seems like they will most likely do something else at running back. Do you think that they will bring in? It seems they seem to be very content with a 2-back rotation. And maybe it's just because they have 2 of them and this is just the jewels that they were afforded here. Or do you think as Kenneth Walker moves on, it'll be a more 1A, 1B approach for them? And should we be buying or selling Sharps here?
It depends on what you believe about Sharps. That might seem like a cop-out, but hear me out. So with Sharps, you have the 3-down skill set. He does have the pass-catching ability. It's just that Kenneth Walker is better than him in every way imaginable. So they've got to give Kenneth Walker touches. What's the likelihood
outside of being your like he almost feels like a better Dallas fit, like a Charbonnet, like, hey, just don't do anything crazy. Just we're gonna, it's this gap, that gap, hit it and go. And which is I think what Seattle likes about him. It's like, hey, there's no nonsense to what he's doing, right? We're gonna feed him, and we know exactly what we're gonna get from Charbonnet. Whereas Kenny Walker's a little bit of a wild card. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, you're good. Me saying that is the next question after that is, okay, so if they let Kenneth Walker go and they were willing to take a guy that we believe, so they were willing to take Kenneth Walker off the field to put this guy on the field, what's the likelihood that they're going to be able to bring in a guy that they feel like could take Zack Charbonnet off the field, the guy who had the goal line role already, who's shown you that he's capable of catching passes, who's shown you that he can get the tough yards between the tackles, and he's already, like I said, your short yardage guy. Like, he had caught 42 balls last year, bud. Like, to me, this is just me. To me, what are we doing in thinking that they could just, there's not going to be somebody with Kenneth Walker's skill set to be able to take Zack Charbonnet off the field. So if you believe in him, go buy as much as humanly possible. I don't think you have to do you have to give up a first to get him?
No, I wouldn't imagine so.
So yeah, you go buy this and hope that Clint Kubiak sticks around for another year. Now it all hits a hard reset if Zach, if Clint Kubiak takes a head coaching job, and then we've got to kind of figure that out. But again, he'll be back there by himself. And if you believe in the talent, what's the likelihood that you're going to take a running back with meaningful capital that then makes you think that Zack Charbonnet won't be the primary lead back in this whole deal? That's my logic there.
Right. Yeah. No, I like it. I'm looking at some Charbonnet trades here. It's 202 and a 312, Giddens and 208. Those are just some simple trades here. Sharbs a third and 106 for a 27 first. Pittman and Rashad White for Charbonnet. Just looking at some trades that are just a lot more, just kind of a 1-1. Charbonnet for Golden and Merritt. What do you think about that? Would you rather have like
a Golden and Merritt? Damn.
Okay. Got a little taste of what Golden might be able to do there at that last playoff game.
I'm a big Bill Krosky Merritt guy. So this is troublesome for me. I feel like the correct thing, the safe thing to do is to go Charbonnet. But the upside, I feel like, just go Charbonnet. Just go Charbonnet.
Yeah, I mean, if big factors, if Kubiak stays around and if they let him have a bigger role next year, I might take that Golden. Okay,
so
that Golden Bill side
on that,
and I'd probably just do it for Golden straight up. Honestly,
would you?
Probably. Just take the gamble there a little bit, because there is still some gamble in Charbonnet. Like, he's safe-ish, but they could come right back with another 2-back rotation and Coobs leaves, and and you're back to like, it's muddy every week, hard to start Charbonnet. And a lot, this year it was basically he scores a touchdown and it was fine. If he didn't, it wasn't great, for majority of the season anyway.
Yeah. I think the efficiency might bounce, might take a step forward. I think, I can't fault you for saying that. I think that for me, it's just so much safer to go with Zack Charbonnet. And if they run it back with Kubiak, do they, like I said, I can't see, like, out of the free agents, like, who's the guy that has that they're going to pay big money to with Zack Charbonnet in a contract year?
Yeah. I think it would be more in the draft potentially.
Yeah. Are you really worried about though, like, them taking another running back? Are they going to take a running back in the second round? This is a thin running back class as well.
I don't know. But I mean,
I tell you what, if they took Emmett Johnson, I'm changing my tune quick.
Well, yeah, and it could be thin, but it could be like kind of a log jam in the third round where, hey, we've positioned a bunch of these running backs in the third, and we haven't really gotten into it, but like the Indiana running backs right now, like the Black or Hemby could be on the Seahawks, and you'd be like, yeah, that makes sense, right? Yeah. Next year, and they could be third, fourth round picks because they're a little older, and we've pushed a lot of the running backs because we don't think they're elite, and the league all says, hey, third round is when we're going to start taking a lot of these running backs. There might be one or two in the second, one in the first, and then there's a handful of backs that are going to be kind of fun here. Or maybe they take like a Singleton in the fourth round or something because he gets pushed down and they're like, oh, this is fun, and they try him out for a little bit. I don't know. I'm just saying potentially there. Sharbs was an interesting one of like, he's been tough to buy or sell here for the last little bit. I got this group of ranked running backs here in like the late 30s, like Rachaad White, Tootin, Allgeier, Monangai, like I think are all really, really fun players, but like, how do we feel about the prospect? These guys are all seemed like there's a lot of stuff up in the air for them kind of moving forward. Your Brian Robinson Jr.'s, a lot of these are free agents. Rachaad White, Allgeier. Obviously, Monangai should have a role moving forward. He seems to have proved himself here, and he looks great doing it. And Tootin, we don't know exactly what the landscape of Jacksonville is going to look like. He's had some nice spots here and there, and look really explosive. So, out of a group like that, Chev, what do you anticipate out of any of those guys? Does any of them really stick out of big time buys for you or sells for you? Obviously, you're not going to be able to sell, a ton of those guys at a high premium, but what are we doing? Like, would you rather have like an Allgeier right now over, like a James Conner and a Kamara and, these
Absolutely.
older aging running backs?
Absolutely. Yes. Tyler Allgeier is about to get a bag. Tyler Allgeier is about to get paid. Like, worst case scenario, he ends up in the Jordan Mason, that Jordan Mason role where he's, if that offense would have been what we thought it would be, what it had been in years past, with the quarterback play being solidified and those things being less question marks, then I think with Jordan Mason, with guys like Tyler Allgeier, they're very similar players to me, by the way. Mm-hmm. I just believe that he's going to be a high leverage goal line touchdown guy. He rushed for 1,000 yards when the backfield was his in the only time before Bijan got there. And now he had a career high in touchdowns this year. So I would much rather have him than a guy like James Conner, than a guy like Kamara. Like, I do not think he has the fantasy ceiling that either one of them have, mm-hmm. but we're going to get multiple years of bona fide production, I think, if he just lands somewhere where they can commit to giving him consistent touches. He was basically Charbonnet this year. So he's right. He's now a year ahead of that curve, and he's going somewhere else, and he's going to get paid, and he's going to be utilized.
Yeah, we've used the Broncos as a lot of examples, but I think, are they finally free of the Russ dead cap money next year? Yeah. So they should have a little bit more salary cap. Do they pay an older veteran, or not an older veteran, but do they pay a veteran like somebody like an Allgeier? I don't know, just kind of throwing some stuff out there, but I think there's going to be a market for somebody like Allgeier. You sold on Monangai long term here? You feel like he's got himself a role for Ben Johnson?
I don't see how. Again, they can move on from DeAndre Swift for like 1.3 dead cap next year. And we've talked about it being not the most ideal thing for them to do because of how effective that run game is. Eric Bieniemy's got the boys cooking there. RIP Roschon Johnson while I'm at it. And I feel like Kyle Monangai is just like, nobody cares. No, hey, he's really good. He's shown you he's really good. The offensive line is one of the best in the NFL. And, he's already returned on what, like, I got him as a free agent in a bunch of leagues. I picked him up, after the rookie draft, or like my last, if I had a late fourth, I took him, and I was, I've been thrilled with the results. So I think the arrow's pointing like way up. And if they move on from DeAndre Swift and bring in someone else that kind of complements, or now the issue is if they spend high capital, we're back in that spot where he's a definitive buy for me because he's going to get snaps unless they, I doubt that they're going to spend high capital and try to get, they're not going to trade up to get Jeremiah Love. Jeremiah Love's not going to make it back to where they are. And I don't think they're going to spend it on Emmett Johnson or, any of that cohort. So
it feels like they're going to run it back with the same cast of characters and see if they can't draft another guy later. Right.
Right.
But who knows? Just looking at some Monangai trades here. 2 3s for Monangai is one. There's tight end premium, Monangai and 210 or Terrace Ferguson.
Monangai and 210 or Terrence Ferguson. What's the premium?
Half point premium.
Yeah. Give me Monangai.
Feels like Fergie Wergie could be ascending into something fun, but Monangai and 210 could also be decent. There's Xavier Worthy for Monangai 2 days ago.
Give me Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
I'm not even a Xavier Worthy guy. You know that. And that's too much value to pass.
Parker Washington or Monangai and 2 3s.
Hey, man. I don't know if the toothpaste is going back in the tube, Casey. We just did that episode.
We did.
We just did that episode where we were like, man, I don't think we can count on this. But then they did it. They did it with him in a playoff game, Casey. I don't think you can ignore that.
I'm not sure. I don't know that you can either, man. I although you can't ignore what Monangai's doing either, I feel like.
So, no, it's not a knock on that, but it's just the fact that in gotta have it moments and gotta have it situations, the offense ascended, and then Parker Washington emerged from the cloudiness of the BTJ disappointment and was like, I'm the hero you deserve. So I gotta be on that's tremendous value for Parker Washington, but I gotta go Parker Washington just because of what we've seen him do, and that offense is remaining intact. Yeah, they might lose Grant Udinski. I think he's getting a ton of offensive coordinator interviews. So I just believe that he's going to be a fixture in that offense as long as he's healthy. And to play both sides of the coin, he's the type of guy that you love.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. Chuba was another one that, we both really liked coming in. He's kind of that 7th round player, 6th round player where you could still get like potentially a bell cow. That didn't quite work out how we thought it would. I got some Chuba trades pulled up here. What are we doing with Chuba Hubbard moving forward?
I'm all in. I was in before this year. I was juvenated, and then I got rejuvenated. What
rejuvenated you?
Well, Rico Dowdle's a free agent, and once we'll have to deal with Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks will probably play the role that Rico Dowdle did this year. But again, none of this comes up if Chuba doesn't have a calf injury and Rico goes for like 200 back-to-back weeks.
Fair.
They were, and even still, they were still giving Chuba Hubbard the rock once he got healthy. He said he wasn't healthy, on the broadcast. They said as much. He rushed back and he wasn't himself. And then once he was healthy, they started giving him the rock again. He's the money guy. Right. He's the money guy. Now they can move on from him after this year, I believe, after 2026.
After 2026, yeah.
For a minimal dead cap hit. If you're not paying attention to that for running backs, like in your evaluation and like how you're going to treat running backs, you got to start doing that because you're going to end up holding the bag a lot if you don't.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm in for Chuba 2026. Call me crazy, but I was in before and it disappointed me a little bit, and now I'm back.
Woody Marks or Chuba?
Chuba.
Ooh, okay. You've been giving Woody some love recently.
I've owned it. It.
No. I just meant like you've been liking Woody.
Yeah,
so
I do. I own the fact that I was wrong.
I got Chuba and Woody right now ranked. Chuba one spot ahead of Woody. Jaylen Warren now with some questions in Pittsburgh or Chuba.
Chuba.
Ooh, okay. Tony Pollard has an out potentially with your boys. Mm-hmm. Had a great back. What we saw at the end of the season is what I thought we would see more of during the season.
That's right.
Gave me a lot of hope to buy back into Pollard for this upcoming season. I don't know that it'll be a Titan. You'd probably have a better beat on it than that. But somebody like a Tony Pollard here moving forward right now would probably be a pretty decent cheap buy if you've got a nice contender. What do you think about Tony Pollard?
I like Tony Pollard, as you know, like that's, again, another Memphis guy, and like our families are actually friends with each other. So like I have a personal attachment, but I'm still going Chuba Hubbard. Okay. Are you asking me just what I think about Tony Pollard?
I wasn't necessarily putting those two against each other.
Okay. I think if he's going to go somewhere, he could be the guy that Seattle brings in to kind of solidify that 1-2 punch if they bring back Clint Kubiak, and it makes it, see how gross that feels?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. See how gross that feels? Like, or he could go he could go down to Atlanta and be a compliment, go be a compliment to Bijan Robinson like Tyler Allgeier was. And you spell him, and then if something for some reason happens to Bijan, you've got a guy that's more than serviceable, with a little bit of juice and a lot of tread left on the tires in terms of his ability to perform. So yeah, I think that he's at the age point, the age apex of, hey, nobody's ever going to value you for what you can actually do in their lineup. You'll never have to pay that price again.
Yeah. Yeah. Like there's a couple moves in here I don't mind. There was a 211 straight up for Tony Pollard. If I'm a contender, I would try that. I don't hate it. There's this 3.6 to 211 move up with Tony Pollard. I don't mind that. Bill and 208 for Pollard. You on the Bill side there?
Give me Bill and 208 all day long.
Yeah. 307 is kind of more what I was along the lines of what I was thinking.
That's what I'm saying. And like Tony Pollard is always, if you're a contender, Tony Pollard is always going to be worth way more than that to your lineup.
Yeah, here's Godwin and Pollard for Pollard.
I think I'm on the Godwin side.
I think I would be too, but I could feel it be pretty similar outcomes for points scored.
Yeah. I mean, if Tony Pollard, here's the thing. If Chris Godwin gives you a 14 points per game season, you're going to be really happy based on what just transpired, what he's come back from, and a little, just having a fresh, feeling like a breath of fresh air after this disappointing 2025, right? If Tony Pollard gives you 14 points a game, you're going to feel like you could run through a brick wall because he's a 29-year-old running back that you're able to get for cheap. Or if you need some running back depth, you had amazing wide receiver depth and you wanted to give up Chris Godwin because he's your wide receiver 5 or 6 or whatever to add, just some security in your running back room. I think that this is 1,000%. Like that's a win-win.
So where does that leave you on Spears then for this upcoming year with Tennessee?
Wheels up, baby.
Wheels up. You think obviously again, there's no continuity there. And so we don't exactly know what how they'll view that. And would assume they'll probably bring some other sort of running back in, but
It would really suck if they brought in Travis Etienne.
Or really Tyler Allgeier, or
No, not Tyler Allgeier.
You don't mind
Tyler
that?
Allgeier, because Tyler Allgeier is more the early down
function. Yeah,
function's completely different.
Okay. Like, I just want to see Spears get a shot to like just have a semi-featured role is really all I just
fantasy hero last year.
Yeah.
Fantasy hero last year was the RB3 during the fantasy playoffs. So we've seen him do it with the, with the unlimited, with the backfield, with autonomy in the backfield.
Mike McDaniel.
Mike McDaniel sends this to the moon. And I didn't want to say it out loud, but now you've made me do it. That is what I have been plotting on. Like, I want Mike McDaniel in Nashville so bad for this specifically. Like H-hand light.
Right. And at that point, I think whoever comes in is probably going to bring in some sort of other running back, whether it be a free agent
there's a running back coming to Tennessee either via the draft or free agency. We've got $100 million in cap space. A running back is coming to Tennessee. If they move on from Pollard, a running back's coming to Tennessee. Now, how effective that running back is and whether or not, like, why I want it to be Tyler Allgeier is because I don't think Tyler Allgeier gives. What is this? What is it? Dollar Bill, what are you doing?
Artie Smith to the Titans and Allgeier to follow.
If you weren't
kiss Dollar Bill. Shout out to Sinclair on X. What's up, man? Good to see the comments from X. Bring the comments from X. Come on over.
I'm so upset right now. I can't even finish my thought. That made me sick to my stomach. I got the BGs right now because he
wants to spit on his own floor.
Bro, that's disgusting. I can't tell you. There are very few things I want less than Arthur Smith to the Titans, Allgeier to follow. You son of a biscuit. All right, bro. All right. We're just being hateful. We've reached the point in the stream where we're just being hateful. Okay.
Good to see you, Colt. Colt says, what's up? Good to see you. Yeah, Dollar Bill, that was hateful. Yeah, it seemed very hateful. It seemed very hateful. All right, we've talked some running backs. Let's switch gears a minute for some wide receivers here. And we've got some. The Bucs have fired, OC, right? And so that tree who was there has kind of worked their way out and it's kind of created this nice offense. And we're like, all right, well, we feel pretty good. And I don't think you're terribly worried about Baker, but like we've gone from the Canales to the Cohen to the King Gizzard, and now we don't know right now, right?
Yes.
So where does that leave you in trust for this Bucs offense receiving core, Baker?
I mean, I feel like Baker's gonna figure it out. He's at the point
at this point, right? Yeah. You feel okay about it.
Yeah, I mean, this is nasty work. From the time I said that it's wild. They put belt to ass to my take that they were a Super Bowl contender in the most diabolical fashion. Like,
yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised Bowles is still around.
Yeah, me too, bud. I thought for sure this collapse was going to get him shit canned. So, yeah, I feel like they're going to figure it out. Those weapons, it almost feels like a too big to fail situation. Like Baker was absolutely dealing early in the season with no Tristan Wirfs, with no Luke Gedeke, and then they get those guys back, and then the offense just the clock struck midnight, and they couldn't find the end zone if they were standing in the middle of it.
Yeah. And I think Baker's injury probably played into a lot of that's probably a bummer for a lot of the season.
Yes, absolutely. I don't like making the injury excuse, but I mean, you could very clearly see that there's a diabolical difference in the way that he played post-injury and then pre-injury. He was, we're talking MVP stuff.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. And we saw like Buka really rise and fall. Still still inside the top 20. I know you're lower on Egbuka than a lot of people, but is he still in the top 24 of wide receivers for you?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Top 20.
Let me check the thing I sent you.
Let's check the tape.
14.
Okay, so he's right there. Olave or Egbuka?
Olave's 10.
Okay, 10.
10. Right. 10.
Nico or Egbuka?
Nico.
Okay. I do want to talk
about
Stroud for a second before we dip out. We're hanging out for a minute, but all right. So it feels like the Bucs.
I've got Egbuka higher. My bad.
Okay, you got Egbuka higher than Olave?
No, I've got Egbuka at 14. I've got Nico at 18.
Okay, let's see, little drop in Nico. So the rest, I feels like they can go. They should and will go defensive in the draft. I feel like they tipped the apple cart last year and took the first round wide receiver, and Mike Evans seems like he can be back if he wants to be. Godwin was coming on at the end of the season, and Jaylen McMillan came right back in and took it right back. Tez Johnson, like, they've got enough offensive pieces. Bucky's good. They could probably bring back Sean Tucker if they want, which he's very interesting as far as where, when you're fishing around on trades, tag Sean Tucker in on trades.
Yes. Yes. That's an excellent point.
Yeah. But like, where are you seating somebody like a Jaylen McMillan in right now? Because he seems like he can be just a locked in wide receiver 3 for you in a lot of weeks, from what we saw him coming back from a terrible injury from the preseason, and then came right back in and seemed like right back in the tree of trust with Baker.
Yeah. I don't know what to do with him, because he's shown you, I have the rule. You show me you're good at football, I'm going to believe you. But it's such a crowded situation now. Like, he's got the requisite draft capital invested. If Mike Evans moves on, and just starts the clock for his gold jacket, then I feel a lot better about it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many mouths to feed. Is he going to overtake Chris Godwin for targets if Chris Godwin's healthy? No. Is he going to overtake Emeka Egbuka for targets if he's healthy? No.
Maybe. No.
Like, there's no way.
Yeah.
There's no way. So you get him as a throw-in in a trade. Like, you get him as a throw-in in a trade, and you wait. If you really like him, which there's no reason not to like him.
Yeah, that's like you said, when somebody's like, I liked him, he came in as a rookie, was good, got injured. They drafted another receiver. Both of the guys are a little older. To me, this is just like, hey, if the value is going to stay down, I'm just going to continue to just acquire as much as possible. This is going to be, if any, I'm always trying to acquire Jaylen McMillan. It's somebody asked about Troy Franklin earlier, and I like McMillan more than I like Troy Franklin, right? But do you have to take Troy Franklin right now over him because of where that is, or does Pat Bryant come in and muddy this thing up some more?
I think so. I mean, you had basically you got the stretch that you got from Jaylen McMillan to close out the season like that last year. You got that during the middle of the fantasy season with Jaylen McMillan, with Troy Franklin. And then immediately after the bye week, they started featuring Pat Bryant. So you might have missed your sell window on Troy Franklin. I like Jaylen McMillan better. I like Jaylen McMillan better as a prospect. So that might be a little bit of confirmation bias. Like, he had 46 targets through one of the stretches, through that stretch of the season, and he basically was the first read. Yeah, he had more first read targets than Cortland Sutton and all that jazz, during that period of time. But yeah, I would take Jaylen McMillan just because of the fear mongering that Pat Bryant does in my brain.
You could get something probably like Troy Franklin is worth more than McMillan currently, I would assume, right? So, but both of you and I are saying that we like the player more, not necessarily the situation at the moment. But dude, we just saw how quickly that can change in Tampa in a second, right? All of a sudden it was Tez Johnson was one their only healthy receiver seemingly for a minute, right? And
Yes.
If McMillan would have been healthy all season, he would have been putting up Troy Franklin like numbers in the stretches that Troy Franklin put up, I believe. We even saw that here and there. Where does somebody like Jaylen Coker come in for you next season amongst these kind of like lower end guys?
He'd be ahead of all these guys for sure.
You like Coker over McMillan and Troy Franklin?
Yes.
How about somebody like a Kyle Williams?
Yes.
Taking him over Kyle Williams?
Yes.
I've
been on
Williams
this.
Looks fast.
He is. He
looks good. Is he just going to be relegated to a deep role for a minute though? With that,
it's the Jaden Reed, Josh Downs. Like, can you get on the field? Can you get on the field in 2 wide receiver sets? Can you become a full-time player faster than what Jalen Coker can? Jalen Coker once, like, basically from like week 8 on, was on pace for 990 receiving yards and like 6 touchdowns. So I've been saying this. Say this guy's super talented. I know they took Xavier Legette in the first round, but watch him play football. And you can't ignore the fact that he was an undrafted free agent in a class where they took a receiver in the first round and he started earning snaps and producing immediately. And then we get the quad injury, delayed, not denied. Then once he's finally fully integrated into the lineup, he starts being good again. Like, this is just, and he's about to, and because he's an undrafted free agent, they could re-up him with a long contract.
They got the exclusive rights free agent is what Coker's going to be, right, this year. So I would assume where they just spent high capital, Carolina that is, just spent high capital on a receiver. Like, he's shown you he can be good. Legette can do some fun stuff as being like a guy that you can create with, right? But Coker you got to at least try him out as your 2 next year, right? I feel like he's got to have earned this. Like, you're coming out there now with these big 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" guys as your 2. You got these towers now that both can move really well. I feel like they're for Bama Bryce. They got the guys that can help him out of being like, hey, I'm a little smaller. Maybe, he's down there somewhere. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they seem to have a bit of a rapport. So, Jaylen Coker, I think, should be, what would be a price point that you, all right.
I saw him go for the 111 in the league the other day.
Whoa. You're definitely taking 80 or him over 80 Mitchell, right?
Yes.
All right. You're definitely taking Cedric Tillman.
I'm taking him over Cedric Tillman. Yes.
Okay. What if Mac Jones goes to Cleveland?
I reserve the right to change my answer.
How about Ayo Manor?
I would take him over Ayo Manor.
You would take him over Ayo Manor. I was gonna say you got to take Ayo Manor. Okay, I got Coker right now, a spot behind Ayo Manor.
Dude, I've been saying this since people.
You have been very high on Coker.
Like, again, you show me you're good at football, I'm gonna fucking believe you.
Yeah,
like he is certified good at football. It's full stop, no equivocations. And now they trust he's earned a role and he's performed in the highest leverage moments for them.
Okay, there's a trade: Coker or Christian Watson.
Jalen Coker.
He's heating up.
Yeah, easy.
Brandon Aiyuk in 304 or Coker.
Now that.
I mean, I don't know what. I have no living idea what to do with Brandon Aiyuk at this point, but
I mean that's a good cash out.
It's a good lottery ticket.
Yeah, look. So if you want to continue on the Brandon Aiyuk could come back and be good. It's clear. Like, if you go back and you're watching the pregame warmups where he's running around, he's healthy. They voided his guarantees, so of course he's like, nah, I'm not going to play football. There's no reason for me to play football. So, if he goes and he's like, all right, well, I'm healthy now, release me. And they release him and he's able to sign with like the Patriots, or he goes to the Commanders. We've got a revitalized, and he's going to be worth way more than Jalen Coker. But if you just want to be out of this because it's been since week 6 of 2024 since you've gotten any fantasy production from him, then that I feel like Jaylen Coker is a good exit point.
Yeah. Romeo Doubs also a free agent. He could
love Romeo Doubs.
So Romeo or Coker?
Romeo.
Feels like he could really be just a solid 2 for a great 2 for somebody.
I'm going to say this right now, and people are going to think I'm crazy. I think he's a 1. I think he can carry a passing offense.
Packers don't give it to anybody, right?
No, they don't feature
one, right?
Yeah, they don't feature it. You give him 130 targets. It's the same. So it's not the same, but it's very similar to when Stephon Diggs was in Minnesota, and I was like, hey, what does Stephon Diggs look like with 150 targets? And then he goes out his first year in Buffalo, and he's like 127 catches, 1,500 yards, and 8 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen with Romeo Doubs, but I would bet an absurd amount of money if you gave Romeo Doubs 125 targets, he would turn you in 1,000 to 1,200 yards and 7 or 8 touchdowns. He is so much better than what he has been allowed to do in Green Bay.
I think so too. Like somebody like, Pittsburgh brings in Romeo Doubs or somebody where DC?
I want him in Tennessee.
Tennessee. Okay.
I want him to be the primary read in like Cam Ward's progressions, and I just want to see what happens.
Yeah, that would be pretty fun as long as we get a fun offensive.
Yeah, if we don't get, another Caliban attack like we had to deal with Brian Callahan, like if we don't get one of those, then yes, I think that it's going to be really fun.
Kellen Moore gets a hold of him with Olave. Now, obviously, we know that seemingly Moore will spam the 1, but there's plenty of opportunity for somebody else to get. Juwan Johnson was awesome this year. So
Devonta Smith, career high in points per game with Kellen Moore.
The Dragon Hunter asked if we've talked about Loveland yet. We have not. So let's pivot there real quick, and I want to talk about Stroud before we leave. We did 2 shows ago. I don't know. Last time we talked in a live, maybe it was the last one when we're doing the show. Is he the tight end? Is Loveland the tight end 3 now for you? Or no? Okay. You still haven't moved him up there.
You know who my tight end 3 is.
It's Kraft, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Right now I got my tight end rankings all jacked up because I got Travis Kelce just at the top, just paying him homage right now, Hey,
we love you, Trav. Thank you for your service.
But so you
this is aggressive. I don't know how you could watch him play football over the last month and not feel like he's the guy.
I think you're allowed to overreact as much as you want in this situation. I mean, yes. I'm a Warren guy through and through. I just like him, and there's a very big juxtaposition of how those things went, and they just 2 ships passing in the night. As far as the way the season went. So I'm not saying I'm ready to but I mean, at this point, like, you got to be elated to take Colson Loveland.
I mean, if you made that pivot in your drafts and you were like, all right, well, Tyler Warren went 2 picks before, and I gotta, it's tight end premium. I'm gonna take the guy who got the higher draft capital. You're ecstatic right now, and your price point has just steadily just risen through the roof. And like I said, I think that there's a non-zero chance that they rebuild the passing game in the offseason around him and Luther Burden. Well, I think without question, based on Caleb Williams' comments, this is going to be something that they have a mind meld, they have a connection.
Again, he also hasn't dropped the ball, right?
Yeah. He's one of 7 tight ends to go for 700 yards as a rookie. Like, it's Brock Bowers. It's Brock Bowers and a ridiculous, like Tyler Warren, him. There's, Sam Laporta. It's all tight ends that were
Shockey, I think.
Yeah, Shockey. It's all guys that have become awesome for fantasy. Okay. So that's where this is headed. And if you wanted to make him your tight end 3, I make no bones about it. That's fine. It's just that I don't have any questions about I don't have any questions about. Again, this isn't 1979. There aren't the Junction Boys. I feel like Tucker Kraft's going to come back and be the number one in the offense. That's what he was before he got hurt. And we're, I'm not changing that yet. But there's a chance that I am very wrong and Colson Loveland ends up being tight end 2 or tight end. He could challenge for interstellar dominance between Brock Bowers and Trey McBride.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I right now I would place him at tight end 3. I mean, just recency bias.
I respect it, but I respect it. I don't fault.
I got him. I got him, Tyler Warren, and Kraft in the same tier essentially, and I think there's going to be plenty of arguments in the offseason. Is Loveland because of, especially is he in the Bowers and McBride tier? I don't know that he can necessarily touch the volume that maybe those guys will see. We'll see just because. There is a lot of other things going on, but I mean, if as far as you're going through with what we're seeing right now, there's plenty of volume for Colson Loveland in this offense. And like you said, they have a rapport. Obviously they had some, they got high capital on them again, not dropping the ball. They clearly are going to use tight ends in bigger sets here and draw up plenty of plays to get him there. And Loveland's obviously an absolute incredible weapon. So, yeah. I mean, gotta.
Yeah, I don't. He's everything that people said about his yards per route run, all your analytics guys won here in terms of the efficiency and all that stuff. And the one guy that was yelling about people trying to trade up for him and all that stuff.
It was a perfect storm too.
Yeah, this is great. This has been great. I think that it is trending towards him being a multiple time All-Pro, 1,000-yard receiver, 82 targets, 700 yards. We love that. And that was with him basically, not being a full-time player, for the first 9 weeks of the season. After the Bengals game, the toothpaste couldn't go back in the tube. So 9 to 18 is where most of this accumulated.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. All right. We got a question. Darnold and 2 4s for Murray and 2 7. He said it just happened like 5 minutes ago. So Darnold and 4s or Murray and the 207.
Darnold and 4s.
I mean, I'll take Kyler. And the 207.
We're just gonna be on opposite sides of this.
Yeah, that's fine. Which, I give me the King Darnold crown because I was champion.
Yeah. Hey, how far we've come.
So that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about.
How far we've come. I mean, I've been hating on Darnold for a long time.
What do we do? Loveland and a mid-late 27 first or Bowers?
Bowers.
Probably Bowers.
Guys, don't goldfish brain this.
Loveland's the new Bowers.
Yeah, we can't. Hey, look, we've already seen Bowers get 150 targets. If they did not have, a complete imbecile calling plays and Brennan Carroll ruining everything and Brock Bowers getting hurt, we're still locked in for another 130 targets, guys.
Yeah.
And even still, he was 64 for 680 and 6 this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Mendoza fixes it.
All right. So I wanted to end with CJ Stroud because that's the last bit of football that we saw in this last playoff situation.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we feel about CJ? Because that game was awful from, he just looked a little off and rattled, but then, also just dropped some dimes when he needed them. So, I think that's kind of what I want to see out of a quarterback that I expect big things at. But what do you do? How are you valuing CJ Stroud kind of moving forward? This Texans offense is it's so weird. Obviously the protection I think is one of the bigger issues, right? It's been getting better, and I'm sure their rookie tackle who's played a lot this year,
Ariante Ursery.
Yeah,
yeah,
he'll be improved moving into the next year, and they'll probably target getting this line better moving forward, right? Because they've got a good guard and a tackle who just played a lot. I don't know what they'll do with the rest of this line. But you would assume that this is where they invest some capital kind of moving forward and try to strengthen that up, which would ideally help Stroud and the run game some. But, coming off that rookie year, a lot of love for him of being like, hey, this could be sort of, another Burrow-esque type of passer, dissector of kind of do whatever, put it wherever he wants to put it. And it hasn't panned out that way for various amounts of reasons. But what are we doing with CJ Stroud right now? What's your projection for him?
This is something I have a really tough time with because of the fact that the offensive line is so bad. Like, their offensive line getting better buoys all of, every single one of the assets. Like we talked about Woody Marks being quote unquote inefficient. Their line's dog shit. So we can't, it's really difficult to truly evaluate, hey, is this guy just a guy who has bad vision and, doesn't break tackles and stuff like that? Or is he just having to create something out of nothing? I'm having a really hard time evaluating him because there's zero chance that I want him as my QB1. No. He doesn't run. We haven't gotten the high end outcome yet. Like from a passing, is he capable? Yes. I think the talent is there. I think, his ability to operate is there. I just don't think that it has worked that way. So that being said, if I can take the 2026 106 and turn that into CJ Stroud, 10 out of 10.
You'd rather have Stroud than Mendoza?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But
we got Mendoza at home.
Somebody like a Purdy and a Trevor Lawrence now. You got to take them both over Stroud. That's how you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You're hoping for an outcome like Brock Purdy. You're hoping for a Brock Purdy-esque outcome for CJ Stroud.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we talked earlier. We talked a while ago about Dart or Stroud, and I took Stroud, and you guys both took Dart. And right now, I still feel like Stroud from where we can get to, I trust more, but Dart from fantasy points per game of what he can do for you right now is definitely the way to go.
The legs unlock.
It's crazy because Stroud could just run a little more, man.
He's fully capable.
I know. It's just ridiculous.
I mean, the one time he did it, he did get a really bad concussion and missed 3 games. So.
It's true, but
maybe just
do it a little better. Just get down.
Hey, slide a little bit faster.
Yeah. Get down. Shut up. All right, let's run through the games and we'll sign off here.
What if he gets a great, what if they move on from Nick Caley and he gets a really good play caller?
Right. And also a guy who's really never done this before in Nick Caley, right? We all wanted to run Slowick out of town, and we ran him out of town, and
well, they hated each other, so he had to go.
Yeah. But it seemed like that was his best, Anyway.
Yeah.
Bills, Broncos. Who you got?
Broncos.
I'm going Bills again. I fuck it. Give me Superman putting on his cape.
Okay.
The best quarterback in the league. He doesn't have any help, Chev. All right. That was a Patreon.
Man, I don't make me derail this shit.
We're trying to get out of here. I got to pee. Niners,
Seahawks.
Niners.
Of course.
Kendricks and Wallow were excellent in this last game. If they can if we could just tackle and swarm to the ball here, 7 at home. Seahawks are telling everybody to not sell their tickets. Bunch of hoes. Texans or Patriots?
Patriots.
I'll take that. Fucking Houston defense was
okay. I answered quickly. I still lean lean Patriots just because I think it's going to be really hard for CJ Stroud to win 2 games in a row on the road.
But does he play a little better in this particular matchup?
Does Drake May play a little better?
Yeah, maybe potentially. They're going to be after him in this one, just like Pittsburgh was probably after him. This O-line isn't excellent. We know that, but I'm going to take the Texans. I'm going Texans in this one.
Okay. I'm going to go
smother in defense. I don't know if they'll have Nico, but I don't know if the Patriots will have Christian Gonzalez either.
I'm going Patriots.
We talked Marcus Jones at one point. I don't remember. I think it might have even been a redraft show that we kind of got into him at one point. But Marcus Jones has been excellent. But obviously, not going to play the role that Christian Gonzalez plays. But
yeah, I told you Calvin Austin said that was the toughest cover.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was the toughest guy that covered him in college, and he played against Sauce. He played against a bunch of the guys. Like he said, by far and away, Marcus Jones was the stickiest, toughest guy in coverage that he faced. Yeah. So it's good for me to see him balling out like this.
Yeah. All right. Rams at Bears. Gonna be cold.
My heart says Bears.
Me too.
My head says Rams.
I'm gonna take the Bears anyway. Give me
Bear stuff.
Give me old the chili acrylic assassin.
If it's within 3 scores in the fourth quarter, give me the Bears.
Yeah.
I go Bears.
Bears. Yeah, I love it. All right, boys. Next Wednesday, we'll be live. We're going to do another mock next Wednesday. We're going to try to switch it up here, talk values and rankings, answer your questions. And then free Discord if you want to join just the slow roll of mocks that we're doing is definitely the best way to get into there. If you want extra episodes and more access and more questions answered, we got the Patreon, $5 holler, and getting close to debuting the website here very, very soon. So we'll have definitely a live show doing that and what we can do with it and the fun stuff it offers. So that'll be fun, and we could definitely get the comments up in arms here with stuff we can do on the website and kind of how it works. So until next time, I'm Casey. He's Chev. Maybe you'll see Big Co next time. Big Co was swamped, so he couldn't make it. Appreciate you guys, everybody in here. You guys have been great. Thank you for the little bit of love, big noggin there. But yeah, if you're listening on the pod the next day, appreciate you. 5-star review if you haven't done so already. It's the easiest, cheapest, best way to help your boys out. 5 stars reviews are, they really, if you haven't done it, man, please go ahead and do so on, Spotify or Apple or however you're listening to, because it really does help get the word out there. So until next time, FF Dynasty out.